Donald Trump's presidency has become the I told you so presidency. It's become the red regret presidency. All of Donald Trump's MAGA voters, who were so fired up for their king, their savior, to get るof all those bad Joe Biden policies, are now realizing that Joe Biden's policies and the policies of all the Democratic administrations for him, were keeping them alive. So MAGA is not only in for a rude awakening, they're already awake and they're scared and they're hungry because they voted against their own self-interest. And now they're realizing that Donald Trump screwed them. And someone who did an incredible job compiling that, and it'll make you feel a lot better, watching it, was Rachel Maddow. She's got Trump upset, and we're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I can quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, let's check out this clip from Rachel Maddow. Now,
Governor Glenn Youngkin had to do today. Dateline Richmond. Governor Glenn Youngkin said today that the state is preparing an aid package for Virginians losing their jobs in the Trump administration's gutting of the federal workforce. But he said the cuts are necessary. In his first extended public remarks on the cuts, Youngkin told reporters that he feels deep concern for those who are anxious about their employment future as the White House purges people at almost every agency. Hundreds of workers at the FAA lost their jobs over the weekend, for example, and a sweeping elimination of workers ahead of a Tuesday deadline affected map makers and cancer researchers and FEMA staffers, among thousands more cut over the past few weeks. But Youngkin defended the Trump administration's actions, which disproportionately affect Virginia as one of the top states in the country for federal employment and spending, with more than 140,000 federal workers. Even one of Youngkin's signature achievements, a computer science laboratory high school in Richmond, has been touched by the cuts with cancellation of a federal grant for a teacher residency program. The governor said he wanted it known that, quote, "We understand and we're here to help." He said the state, quote, "will have the ability to support federal workers through any job dislocation." But the governor declined to provide details about what kind of help the state is prepared to offer. He said that when the plan is ready, quote, "I want to communicate it in a package. We'll have a good one for you." Well, get back to me. It'll be, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be good. I don't know. It'll be great. We're going to come up with something. In the meantime, please report that I said that I support Donald Trump 1,000%, and also that I am working to figure out how to clean up the giant deliberate mess he is making of people's lives and our economy in this state, for which I have a lot of empathy. Say that too. Even though I definitely 1,000% support this infliction of pain on people who live in my state, and even on myself, even though we've done nothing wrong. Can you get all that in the lead? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Can you put that as the caption? Did I mention that Virginia has elections this year? In just a few months? You feel like your Republican politicians in Virginia are looking out for you? So we're going to keep watching this dynamic. Republicans who can't actually bear what Trump is doing to their own states and to their own constituents, but they're too scared to say they're against it. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska asking for exemptions to Trump's cuts and actions, specifically for Indian tribes in Alaska. Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa asking for an exemption for Iowa farmers to the tariffs on Canada. Republican Florida Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar asking for an exemption to the indiscriminate deportation policies. Republican Senator Katie Britt asking for an exemption on the massive cuts to scientific and medical research, saying, you couldn't possibly mean Alabama for those cuts, could you? Not Alabama. You want these cuts elsewhere, right? Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine saying the same thing, saying surely those cuts don't apply to the universities and labs in Maine. She said if it applies to the ones in Maine, that would be, quote, devastating. So certainly they don't mean Maine, right? They couldn't. Republicans just eating it in their home districts and their home states as their party's leader does things that are devastating to those states and to those constituents. And just seeing that in states all over the country is a lot of things. It gives me many, many feelings of many different kinds. But as a matter of political science, it's also important to watch in terms of what kinds of constraints this president, this administration might ever feel. Political scientists will tell you that one of the only constraints that matter on an ascending authoritarian is the constraints put on him by his own party. The distance between what people think they voted for and what people realize they got ultimately does matter. Sometimes it's the only thing that matters. The Wall Street Journal yesterday spoke with Trump voters who just 1 month in say they are now horrified by what they helped cause when they voted for Trump. Quote, Stacey White says she voted for President Trump because she wanted lower prices and to stop fentanyl from coming into the U.S. Now, with widespread federal layoffs and expected cuts, she worries her family will lose their house if her partner is laid off from his government-adjacent job. At the dialysis unit where she works, staff has started doing drills for what to do if Immigration and Customs Enforcement comes to deport their patients. Stacey said, quote, when we said safer borders, I thought he was thinking, let's stop the drugs from coming into the country. I didn't know he was going to start raiding places. She said she didn't believe he would actually follow through on some of the more hardline policies he touted during the campaign. The 49-year-old Omaha, Nebraska resident said, quote, now I'm like, dang, why didn't I just pick Kamala? Emily Anderson from Duluth, Minnesota, categorizes her vote for Trump this year as the, quote, biggest mistake of my life. She is horrified by Trump's focus on deportations and use of Guantanamo Bay to hold migrants. She says that Trump has been too focused on, quote, ridiculous, flashy moves such as banning paper straws and renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Anderson's daughter is an Anderson's daughter's occupational therapist has stopped taking new patients over fears that the practice will have its federal funding dry up. Anderson said, quote, I feel so stupid, guilty, regretful, embarrassed is a huge one. I'm absolutely embarrassed that I voted for Trump. So as long as we still have a political process, voters feeling that way, Trump voters feeling that way, Republican elected officials desperately seeking exemptions for their state from what Trump is doing to try to save their constituents from what Trump is doing, saying Trump's policies are bad if they apply in their state. Republicans finding Trump's actions and chaos and dysfunction not only damaging but indefensible, and they're being caught out at home, unable to defend the indefensible. If we still have a political process, that will matter in terms of what Trump can do and for how long.
Sorry, MAGA. You kind of screwed yourself. You kind of messed things up for you. And like kind of you alone, red states, rely on these programs. The most Trump voters are overwhelmingly affected by his policies in the worst possible ways. I love this meme that I'm seeing. It's someone's at the grocery store, they're buying eggs, or they're at the gas pump. Just like any form of cons, and it's like the thing you're buying, the cashier tells them, is 50% more expensive because somehow it took Donald Trump 4 weeks to wreck the economy, and they go, whoa, it's not more expensive. Because look at this on my phone, it says the Gulf of America right there. So eggs can't possibly be expensive. Should Trump called it the Gulf of America? You're telling me. Fighting stupid culture wars that distract me from the actual class war does not make my job pay me more, or my groceries cheaper, or my labor more protected. It doesn't make billionaires pay their fair. Interesting. You fell for it. MAGA, you do it again and again, and they're actually falling for it in a new way, in a different way, with this whole attack on California and not wanting to support the wildfire response and law. The rebuilding of Los Angeles CU, was a blue state. I'm annoyed with these people, but Jasmine Crockett did a great job calling all that out in this same vein. I want to take a look.
I mean, he went from being the dork that was jumping around on stage to allegedly being this amazing genius that's going to save this entire country, the country that he wasn't born in, and a country that maybe he doesn't agree with the idea of a democratic republic, considering the fact that he may have been more so on the side of apartheid. So, I am shocked. And I'm also shocked that MAGA, who is clearly a cult, would allow somebody else to come in and do anything. Now, what we've seen, though, is that Donald Trump's approval ratings still supposedly are kind of either going up or holding, while Elon Musk is falling, right? So you've got the pushback of Steve Bannon. Like, the fact that I agree with him on anything in life really has me like, oh yeah, we really are in the upside down right now. So I do think that there will be more hate that ends up being spewed towards him once people start to really wake up and realize, like, wait a minute, so you're telling me that I don't have any Social Security so that you could get an extra $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion in government contracts from my tax dollars, and or end up saving money on your taxes because you don't want to pay them, and I can't even find a job because we're headed towards a recession. That's what I want people to understand. I don't mean to be gloom and doom, but when you have somebody that is firing people from the 15th largest employer in the world, which is the federal government, and then when you are saying, let's kick out these amazing people that have actually contributed to our country in the form of building our homes, as you're complaining about the cost of homes, when you're talking about people that are going and working the farms, as you're complaining about the cost of food, as you're getting rid of people that are working on bird flu, and you're like, oopsie, didn't realize that's what you were doing. We are living with this incompetent administration that is literally driving us to a recession at warp speed. And all I can say is hold on to your money and make sure that you have a way to make money, even if you lose your job, because there are people that believe that, oh, I don't work for the federal government, so I'm fine. But that's not the case. We just saw the Southwest Airlines did the biggest layoff that they have ever done in its entire existence. We continue to see private industries laying off. So many private companies rely on federal dollars.
What do you do?
I have said it's hard to feel sorry for these people. I just don't. Jasmine Crockett's right. She's spot on. I clapped for her in the last video. We're doing it again. I love you, Jasmine Crockett. Best, please. You're keeping us all sane. Speaking the truth, please. Keep doing it. And we're going to keep playing it on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, you leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.